We spent the last couple months talking about matter. We know that matter is anything that's made of particles and takes up space, which is pretty much everything, right? You, your dog, the water you drink, the food you eat, the house you live in, all made of matter. And all that matter is affected by this force that we call gravity. So we're going to spend a little while talking about gravity and how it affects matter. This is from a You Wouldn't Want to Be book called You Wouldn't Want to Live Without Gravity. I think you've read a couple of these in Mrs. Millen's social studies class, but this is a science one. You wouldn't want to live without gravity. So I'm going to read this first page to you. And after you guys learn a little bit more about gravity, you're going to be expected to read another page later in this lesson. So pay special attention because a lot of this information will be on the quiz at the end of class. So, what did gravity ever do for you? Gravity acts a bit like invisible glue, holding everything onto the surface of Earth. It doesn't work only at the surface and on solid things. It holds the ocean down and keeps air from floating away into space. It even holds the entire Earth itself together as a big blob of spherical planet. So gravity is pretty important, huh? If Earth's gravity suddenly turned off, but don't worry, it won't, everything would whiz off the surface of the planet. I guess that's what this is. Right? Gravity turns off, everything flies away. All the water, air, people, animals, and objects would go hurling into space. It might seem fun for a moment, but it really wouldn't be very nice. What does this top tip say? Gravity isn't going to turn off, so protect yourself from the more dangerous moments. Wear a helmet when you ride your bike and protective pads if you go skateboarding or roller skating. Because if you fall, gravity is going to force you down onto that ground and you could injure yourself. So let's look at some of these different boxes. What do they say? So weight. Weight is the effect of gravity pulling mass down towards Earth. On a planet with different gravity, you'd have a different weight, but still the same mass, right? You'd still be made of the same amount of stuff, but the gravity would pull that stuff down differently on different planets. Without gravity, nothing would stay in place unless it was tied down. If you tried to pour a drink, the liquid would drift away or stay in the bottle since there'd be no gravity to make it come out. Gravity can be fun. Without it, there'd be no roller coaster rides and you wouldn't be able to go skiing or sledding because all of these rely on gravity pulling you down when you're up. Gravity can also hurt. With no gravity, you wouldn't fall downstairs or off a bike. Falling is the result of gravity acting on your mass to pull you towards the center of the earth. Right? As soon as you fall off that bike, gravity is going to pull you down towards the center of the earth. And what's going to stop you? The sidewalk. Whenever anything falls on you, gravity is to blame for it dropping and for it hurting if it's heavy. And without gravity, you couldn't drop trash in wastebaskets. It would just float away. Finally, gravity also holds the planets in orbit around the sun and keeps the moon in orbit around the earth. Without it, the moon and planets would just sail off. So gravity does a lot of important things. It keeps us on the earth. It keeps the planets rotating around the sun. It allows us to drink water, put things in the garbage can. So gravity is really important. So now let's take some notes. We're just going to take some quick notes on just some important vocabulary words. So write this down. Gravity. Gravity is a force that pulls matter towards the center of the earth and causes matter to be attracted to other matter. Right? Everything has gravity. So the earth has a lot of gravity. It's going to cause this apple to fall down towards the center of the earth. And also, if an object has a lot of mass, it causes objects to be attracted to it, right? So this smaller object is going to be attracted to this larger object because this larger object has a lot of mass. You can see it's actually bending space and causing that smaller object to kind of fall into it, okay? So gravity pulls matter towards the center of the earth and causes matter to be attracted to other matter. Pause this, write that down before you move on to the next slide. Air resistance. Air resistance is something that kind of slows down gravity, right? So when air pushes against a moving object, causing it to slow down, that's air resistance. Right now, this skydiver's falling from the sky. Gravity is pushing him down towards the center of the earth, but at the same time, The air resistance is slowing him down, right? You can imagine this. You stick your hand out the car window when you're driving and you feel all that air pushing on your hand. That's air resistance. So write that down. And finally, trajectory. This is another important gravity term. This is the curved path of a moving object, right? In this case, you have a baseball player, he hit a ball, and that ball is going to actually fight against gravity. It's going to go up instead of down. But eventually, it's going to reach its peak, and eventually it's going to start to fall back down to Earth. That is the ball's trajectory, right? The curved path of that moving object. All right, so make sure you have those 3 vocabulary words written down before you move on to the next step.